Ashe. A respected figure in the criminal underworld, Ashe leads the Deadlock gang, using her sharpshooting skills and explosives to cause chaos. Abilities. The Viper. A semi-automatic rifle that can fire from the hip for quick shots. The Viper ADS. Can aim down sights to increase damage and accuracy but slows fire rate. Dynamite. Throws an explosive that detonates after a short time or can be shot to explode early, dealing damage over time. Coach Gun. Fires a blast that knocks Ashe and enemies back, giving Ashe mobility or spacing when needed. Bob Ultimate. Ashe summons her Omnic sidekick Bob, who charges forward, knocking enemies into the air and acting as a temporary turret. Playstyle. Ashe excels at mid to long range, using her rifle for precise shots and her dynamite to disrupt and damage groups of enemies. Strengths. Strong poke damage, excellent AoE damage with dynamite, and her ultimate is a lethal threat. Weaknesses. Vulnerable to dive, and Coach Gun has a long cooldown. Best composition, Poke, where she can fire from a safe distance. Works well with heroes like Sigma and Mercy. Counters. Dive heroes like Winston, Genji, or Lucio can pressure Ashe if she's caught without Coach Gun. Difficulty, medium. Ashe's success depends on aiming and managing her cooldowns effectively. Bastion. Once a frontline Omnic soldier, Bastion is now a peace-seeking robot who has rejoined the battle, transforming between modes to devastate enemies. Abilities. Ironclad. Takes reduced damage while transformed. Configuration, Recon. Bastion's more mobile mode, where he fires a lightweight machine gun. Reconfigure. Allows Bastion to switch between weapon configuration. Configuration Assault. Transforms into a slow-moving tank with a powerful rotary gun, greatly increasing his firepower and giving him high damage output at the cost of mobility. A36 Tactical Grenade. Fires a bouncing grenade that explodes on contact with enemies or ground, useful for area denial or burst damage. Configuration Artillery Ultimate. Bastion locks into place and launches up to 3 artillery strikes anywhere on the map. Playstyle. Bastion excels at outputting massive damage and melting targets when in assault form. Strengths. High sustained damage in assault mode and strong burst potential with his grenade and ultimate. Weaknesses. Vulnerable without his reconfigure cooldown. Best composition, Brawl or Poke, where he can stay near tanks like Reinhardt or Sigma for protection. Counters. Heroes who can negate his damage when in assault form like Diva, Genji, or Baptiste. Difficulty, easy. Bastion is powerful in the right situations, but requires good timing of his abilities to avoid being overwhelmed. Cassidy. A former outlaw turned hero, Cassidy uses his trusty revolver and combat skills to uphold justice. Abilities. Peacekeeper. Cassidy's 6-shooter revolver can fire single, accurate, and powerful shots. Peacekeeper. Alt-fire. Inaccurately fires the remaining rounds in his Peacekeeper. Flashbang. Throws a grenade that hinders enemies caught in the explosion, slowing them and preventing them from using movement abilities. Combat roll. Cassidy rolls in the direction he's moving, allowing for quick repositioning. This reloads his weapon instantly and gives him damage reduction. Deadeye. Ultimate. Cassidy locks onto enemies, then fires shots that deal massive damage based on how long he's locked on, ideal for wiping out multiple foes. Playstyle. Cassidy is a mid-range DPS who excels at burst damage and taking out squishy targets. Strengths. Strong burst damage, great dueling potential, and strong kit with crowd control and defensive options. Weaknesses. Limited mobility compared to other DPS and can struggle against long-range poke. Best composition, Brawl, or hybrid comps, where Cassidy can get close to targets. Counters. Characters with long range or outplay potential like Roadhog, Widowmaker, or Ana. Difficulty, medium. Cassidy's strength lies in accuracy and timing his abilities to secure kills. Echo. An adaptable robot, Echo can mimic enemy heroes and quickly change the course of battle with her versatile kit. Abilities. Glide. Can slowly fall to glide around the battlefield. Tri-shot. Fires 3 energy shots in a triangular spread, providing consistent damage. Sticky bombs. Launches a volley of bombs that stick to surfaces or enemies, dealing burst damage after a short delay. Flight. Echo flies forward quickly and can then free fly briefly, allowing her to reposition quickly and stay airborne during fights. Focusing beam. Channels a beam that deals massive damage to targets below 50% health, making it a deadly finisher. Duplicate. Ultimate. Echo copies an enemy hero, gaining access to their abilities and can build their ultimate quickly. The enemy copied cannot switch heroes for the duration. Playstyle. Echo is highly mobile, excelling at poking enemies from mid-range and finishing off weakened foes with focusing beam. Strengths. Extreme versatility with her ultimate, high mobility, and strong burst damage. Weaknesses. Vulnerable to hit-scan heroes and has a steep learning curve with her ultimate. Best composition, Dive, as her mobility allows her to keep up with fast-moving allies. Counters, hit scan heroes like Soldier 76 and Ilyari. Difficulty, Hard. Echo requires strong positioning and adaptability with her Duplicate ultimate. Genji. Once a member of the Symmetra clan, Genji was nearly killed by his brother Hanzo, but was saved and enhanced by Overwatch, becoming a deadly cybernetic ninja. Abilities. Cyber Agility. Allows Genji to climb on walls and double jump. Shuriken. Fires 3 shurikens in a straight line, allowing for long-range poke. Shuriken Alt-Fire. Fires 3 shurikens in a fan spread, allowing for lethal burst damage. Deflect. Reflects incoming projectiles in the direction you are aiming and blocks melee attacks, offering protection and a counterattack. Swift Strike. Genji dashes forward, slashing enemies in his path. If Genji scores a kill, the cooldown is reset, allowing for quick multi-kills. Dragon Blade Ultimate. Unsheathes his sword, slashing enemies in melee range with high burst damage for a short duration. Playstyle. Genji is a highly mobile assassin who excels at flanking, diving into the backline, and taking out squishy targets. Strengths. High mobility, great dueling potential, and the ability to reset a cooldown with kills. Weaknesses. Struggles against strong crowd control and healing, as well as high burst damage. Best composition, Dive, where he can coordinate with heroes like Winston or Tracer. Counters. Heroes like Zarya, Mei, or Moira can hurt Genji through Deflect. Difficulty, Hard. Genji requires precise aim, timing, and good decision-making to maximize his impact. Hanzo. Once a criminal leader, Hanzo has turned his life around, seeking redemption by using his mastery of the bow to defend the innocent. Abilities. Wall Climb. Allows Hanzo to jump at walls to climb them. Storm Bow. A powerful bow that fires arrows at varying charge levels, capable of dealing high burst damage at long range. Sonic Arrow. Reveals enemies in a small area, granting vision to his team. Storm Arrows. The next 5 arrows ricochet and fire instantly without the need to charge, but do reduced damage. Lunge. Gives Hanzo a horizontal double jump. Dragon Strike Ultimate. Summons a pair of dragons that travel in a straight line, passing through walls and dealing massive AoE damage. Playstyle. Hanzo excels at long-range damage and can provide vision for his team, making him a potent sniper with burst damage potential. Strengths. High damage potential, utility with Sonic Arrow, and an ultimate that can decimate grouped enemies. Weaknesses. Vulnerable in close-range combat and to dive heroes. Best composition, Poke, where he can play from a distance and capitalize on sightlines. Counters, dive heroes like Doomfist, Sombra, and Lucio can shut down Hanzo quickly. Difficulty, Medium. Hanzo's success depends on positioning and accuracy, but his kit is fairly simple. Junkrat. A former demolitionist and criminal from Australia, Junkrat thrives in causing chaos with his explosives. Abilities. Total Mayhem. Junkrat's explosions do not hurt him, and when he dies, he drops bombs. Frag Launcher. Fires bouncing grenades that explode on contact, dealing AoE damage. Concussion Mine. Throws a mine that can be detonated remotely, dealing damage and knocking back enemies or propelling Junkrat through the air. Steel Trap. Sets a trap that immobilizes an enemy when stepped on, leaving them vulnerable to follow-up damage. Rip Tire Ultimate. Deploys a remote-controlled explosive tire that Junkrat can steer into enemies, detonating for massive damage. Playstyle. Junkrat excels at area control and choke points, using his grenades and traps to deny space and deal high burst damage. Strengths. Strong AoE damage, excellent zoning potential, and a deadly ultimate. Weaknesses. Struggles in open spaces and against long-range heroes. Best composition, Brawl, where Junkrat can take advantage of tight spaces and close-range engagements. Counters. Heroes with high mobility or range like Pharah or Mercy can avoid his explosives and pressure him from above. Zarya can easily gain charge from Junkrat's spam playstyle. Difficulty, Easy. Junkrat's damage is forgiving and requires less precise aim, though positioning is key to maximizing his value. Mei. A scientist who specializes in climate manipulation, Mei uses her invention to chill enemies and control the battlefield. Abilities. Endothermic Blaster. A short-range beam that slows enemies. Endothermic Blaster Alt-Fire. Fires long-range icicles that do significant damage. Cryo Freeze. Encases Mei in ice, healing her and making her immune to damage for a short time. Ice Wall. Creates a large wall of ice that can block enemy movement or block incoming attacks, allowing Mei to control space. Blizzard Ultimate. Summons a snowstorm that freezes enemies in a large area, making them vulnerable to follow-up damage. Playstyle. Mei excels at controlling the battlefield, slowing enemies, and creating obstacles with her wall to disrupt the enemy. Strengths. Strong crowd control, zone denial, and self-sustain with Cryo Freeze. Weaknesses: loses to consistent poke damage and has little to no mobility. Best composition: Brawl, where Mei can use her freeze and wall to isolate enemies. Counters: heroes who can avoid her wall or pick her off from afar like Winston, Ashe, or Kiriko. Difficulty: medium. Mei's utility and survivability make her forgiving, but mastering her wall placement requires good decision-making. You can easily hurt your team more than help them with poor wall placement. Pharah. An Egyptian security chief, Pharah uses her combat skills and advanced Raptora suit to soar through the skies, raining destruction from above. Abilities: hover jets. Pharah can hover and freely fly, using fuel as a resource that regenerates while on the ground. Rocket launcher. Fires slow-moving rockets that deal high AoE damage on impact, making Pharah effective at poking from a distance or lethal in close quarters. Jet dash. Boosts horizontally. Concussive blast. Fires a small explosive that knocks enemies away, giving Pharah the ability to displace or disrupt enemy positioning. Jump jet. Launches Pharah into the air and grants some fuel, allowing Pharah to stay airborne for longer. Barrage. Ultimate. Unleashes a rapid barrage of rockets in a concentrated area, dealing massive damage to grouped enemies. Playstyle. Pharah excels at aerial combat using vertical mobility to control high ground and apply pressure from above with splash damage. Strengths: strong poke damage, great aerial mobility, and a great displacement tool. Weaknesses: vulnerable to hit-scan heroes like Soldier 76 or Cassidy. Best composition: poke or dive, paired with Mercy or Zenyatta, where she can operate safely in the air. Counters: characters that can easily pressure Pharah out of the sky like D.Va, Echo, or Iliari. Difficulty: medium. Managing fuel and positioning in the air while avoiding counters is key to success. Reaper. Once a soldier of Overwatch, Reaper is now a vengeful wraith, hunting his enemies with deadly shotguns and the ability to phase in and out of combat. Abilities: the Reaping. Dealing damage heals Reaper. Hellfire shotguns. Reaper's shotguns deal massive damage at close range, shredding through tanks and squishy targets alike. Wraith form. Turns Reaper into an invulnerable wraith, allowing him to escape danger or reposition, but he cannot shoot while in this form. Shadow step. Teleports to a targeted location. Death Blossom. Ultimate. Reaper spins in place, dealing massive AoE damage to all nearby enemies. Playstyle. Reaper excels in close-range combat, whether that's flanking into the backline to take out supports or shredding tanks. Strengths: high damage at close range, self-healing from damage dealt, and a strong escape tool in Wraith form. Weaknesses: struggles against long-range poke and has limited mobility outside of Shadow Step. Best composition: Brawl, where he can stay close to tanks and engage at close range. Counters: D.Va can fly away or use Defense Matrix to soak Reaper's damage, Ashe can poke him down from afar, and Zenyatta's ultimate completely negates Reaper's. Difficulty: easy. Reaper's kit is simple but requires good positioning and timing to maximize his effectiveness. Sojourn. A former Overwatch captain with cybernetic enhancements, Sojourn combines precision targeting with high-tech railgun weaponry to decimate enemies. Abilities: Railgun. Fires rapid projectiles, landing shots, stores energy. Railgun alt-fire. A high-impact shot that consumes the stored energy created by her primary fire, pierces enemies. Disruptor shot. Launches an energy field that slows and damages enemies caught inside, useful for forcing enemies out of cover. Power slide. A quick slide that lets Sojourn reposition or engage rapidly. She can cancel the slide with a high jump for added mobility. Overclock ultimate. Automatically charges her railgun's secondary fire, allowing her to fire multiple charged shots without needing to land primary fire hits. Playstyle. Sojourn excels in mid to long range combat with her versatile kit, combining mobility with precision burst damage. Strengths: high burst potential with charged railgun shots and strong zone control with disruptor shot. Weaknesses: reliant on hitting charged shots for maximum damage output, vulnerable without charge or power slide. Best composition: poke, where she can safely deal sustained damage from a distance and land charged shots. Counters: dive heroes like D.Va, Genji, or Lucio can pressure her before she can charge her shots. Difficulty: hard. Soch's damage output relies on landing precise shots with the railgun, which requires strong aim and the ability to switch between hit scan and projectiles. Soldier 76. A former Overwatch commander, Soldier 76 now fights from the shadows using his advanced military training and weaponry to hunt down enemies. Abilities: heavy pulse rifle. Soldier's automatic rifle deals consistent damage at mid-range, making him reliable for sustained damage output. Helix rockets. Fires a small rocket that explodes on impact, dealing burst damage in a small area. Sprint. Soldier runs faster while moving forward. Biotic field. Deploys a healing field that heals Soldier and nearby allies, providing sustain in fights. Tactical visor. Ultimate. automatically locks Soldier's aim onto enemies, ensuring every shot hits its mark for a short duration. Playstyle. Soldier 76 is a versatile, all-around DPS who can poke from a distance, sustain himself in fights, and contribute burst damage. Strengths. High mobility, self-sustain, and reliable damage at various ranges. Weaknesses. Vulnerable to high burst damage, heroes with more range, and can struggle to secure kills. Best composition, Poke, where he can consistently pressure the enemy from mid-range. Counters, dive heroes like Doomfist, Tracer, and Lucio who can quickly close the distance and overwhelm him. Difficulty, easy. Soldier is a straightforward and beginner-friendly hero, but tactical positioning is key for advanced play. Sombra. A former hacker turned mercenary, Sombra manipulates information and technology to disrupt their enemies, making her a master of sabotage. Abilities. Stealth. Sombra becomes invisible and gains increased movement speed while out of combat. Machine Pistol. Sombra's short-range automatic weapon deals consistent damage in close quarters. Hack. Disables enemies' abilities and reveals them through walls for a short time, disrupting critical enemy actions. Hack health packs spawn faster and can't be used by enemies. Virus. Infects enemies with a projectile that deals damage over time. Virus deals damage at a faster rate to hacked targets. Translocator. Throws a beacon that Sombra teleports to, giving her incredible mobility and escape options. Stealth's cooldown is also reduced after teleporting. EMP Ultimate. Sombra releases a powerful EMP. It deals damage to all enemies near her based on their current health, hacks them, and destroys enemy barriers around Sombra. Playstyle. Sombra excels at disrupting the enemy team, hacking key targets, and shutting down ultimates or abilities. Strengths. High mobility, strong utility with hack and EMP. Weaknesses. Lower damage output compared to other DPS, and reliant on team coordination to maximize effectiveness. Best composition, Dive, where she can flank and disable key targets for her team to dive on. Counters. Area denial heroes like Mei, Torbjörn, and Brigitte, playing close together and looking out for Sombra is the best way to counter her. Difficulty, easy. Sombra's effectiveness depends on timing, but her stealth and translocator make her a very forgiving hero. Symmetra. A hard-light architect, Symmetra manipulates reality with her photon technology, creating shields, teleporters, and deadly beams of energy. Abilities. Photon Projector. A beam weapon that deals increasing damage the longer it stays on an enemy. Photon Projector, Alt-Fire. Charges and fires an explosive orb. Sentry Turret. Deploys a small turret that slows and damages enemies, useful for area denial or controlling choke points. Enemies damaged by the turrets can be seen through walls. Teleporter. Creates a teleporter that can instantly transport allies, providing rapid repositioning. Photon Barrier, Ultimate. Deploys a massive barrier that spans the entire map, blocking enemy fire and splitting the battlefield. Playstyle. Symmetra excels at area control and creating opportunities for her team with her teleporters and barriers. Strengths. Strong at controlling choke points, high burst damage when her beam is fully charged, and great utility with her ultimate. Weaknesses. Poor range and requires setup to be most effective. Best composition, Brawl, where she can set up turrets and teleporters in close range engagements. Counters. Heroes that outrange her like Orisa, Sojourn, and Juno. Difficulty, easy. Symmetra requires strategic turret placement and smart teleporter usage to be effective. Torbjörn. A brilliant engineer, Torb uses his mechanical prowess to build a turret that defends his team from threats. Abilities. Rivet Gun. Fires molten rivets at enemies, dealing consistent damage at mid-range. Rivet Gun Alt-Fire. Fires a shotgun-like spread at close range. Deploy Turret. Places an automated turret that fires at enemies, providing constant pressure or defense. Forge Hammer. A hammer that can be used to repair Torb's turret or deal damage to enemies. Overload. Gains overhealth as well as improved attack, movement, and reload speed for a brief period. Molten Core Ultimate. Fires a pool of molten slag that deals massive damage over time and deals extra damage to armor. Useful for area denial or zoning enemies off of objectives. Playstyle. Torbjörn excels at setting up defenses with his turret and applying pressure with his consistent damage and overload ability. Strengths. Great area control with his turret and ultimate, strong burst damage with overload, and durable. Weaknesses. Vulnerable to long-range poke and has limited mobility. Best composition, Brawl or Poke, where Torbjörn can control choke points and hold the ground. Counters. Heroes who can damage Torbjörn outside of his turret's range, like Orisa, Widowmaker, and Ana. Difficulty, easy. Torbjörn's effectiveness depends on turret placement and knowing when to use overload for survivability. Tracer. A former test pilot, Tracer can manipulate time, allowing her to blink around the battlefield and rewind damage. Abilities. Pulse Pistols. Tracer's dual pistols deal rapid-fire damage at close range, making her deadly in short bursts. Blink. Tracer teleports a short distance in the direction she is moving, giving her extreme mobility to dodge attacks or engage enemies. Recall rewinds Tracer's ammo, position, and health to where she was a few seconds ago, allowing her to escape danger or undo mistakes. Pulse Bomb Ultimate throws a small explosive that sticks to surfaces and enemies, dealing massive burst damage in an area. Playstyle Tracer excels at flanking and harassing the enemy backline, using her mobility to pick off supports and squishy targets. Strengths: high mobility, great burst damage, and the ability to quickly disengage. Weaknesses: extremely low health, making her vulnerable to crowd control or burst damage. Best composition: dive, where she can work with other mobile heroes like Winston or Genji. Counters: heroes like Roadhog, Cassidy, or Brigitte can lock down and punish her low health pool. Difficulty: hard. Tracer's low health and reliance on positioning and mobility make her one of the most challenging heroes to play effectively. Venture. A member of the Wayfinder Society, Venture is a globe-trotting archaeologist and explorer who loves to solve mysteries. They protect artifacts and archaeological sites from criminals. Abilities: Clobber. Venture's melee does more damage. Explorer's Resolve. Using abilities grants temporary shields. Smart Excavator. Launches a small charge with limited range that bursts in a small AoE. Burrow. Burrows underground, becomes invulnerable, able to move around the battlefield and emerge to deal damage. Drill Dash. Dashes forward and pushes enemies back while above ground or burrowed. While underground, the cooldown is accelerated. Tectonic Shock Ultimate. Venture slams their drill into the ground to send out damaging shockwaves. Playstyle. Venture focuses on weaving in and out of the fight, using their damage to burst down enemies, and Drill Dash to force enemies out of position. Strengths: high burst damage, great stall with burrow, and fantastic crowd control. Weaknesses: has poor range and is susceptible to crowd control. Best composition: Brawl, where Venture can get within range of enemies with heroes like Ryan or Lucio. Counters: heroes who can outrange or lock them down like Roadhog, Cassidy, and Ana. Difficulty: easy. Venture requires good cooldown management and timing to get value, but is a straightforward hero. Widowmaker. Once a loving wife, Widowmaker was reprogrammed by talent into a cold-blooded assassin specializing in long-range sniping. Abilities: Widow's Kiss. An automatic assault weapon good for close-range combat. Widow's Kiss, aim down sights. Aiming down sights allows Widowmaker to charge a powerful sniper shot. Fully charged critical shots deal massive damage. Grappling Hook. Launches a grappling hook that pulls Widowmaker toward it. This allows Widowmaker to reposition quickly and reach unique angles. Venom Mine. Places a poison trap that damages and reveals enemies when triggered, useful for controlling flanks or warning Widowmaker of approaching threats. Infrasight Ultimate. Reveals all enemies through walls and obstacles for a short time for Widowmaker and all of her allies. Playstyle. Widowmaker excels at long-range picks, using her sniper to eliminate key targets from afar and controlling the battlefield from high ground. Strengths: one-shot potential with charged headshots, excellent map control, and intel gathering with Infrasight. Weaknesses: vulnerable at close range and heavily reliant on aim and positioning. Best composition: Poke, where she can pick off enemies from a distance without needing to engage in close-range fights. Counters: dive heroes like Winston, Sombra, and Zenyatta can quickly close the gap or eliminate her before she can act. Difficulty: hard. Widowmaker's effectiveness is highly dependent on precise aim and positioning, making her one of the more challenging heroes to master. And there you have it, every DPS hero in Overwatch explained. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in-game.